Marcos Vance looked across the family dinner table and laughed at the woman who had stood beside him through every failure. In front of his friends, his business partners, and the woman he secretly wanted to replace her with, he called his wife worthless and said she had no place in his future. He believed she was just a quiet woman with no ambition, no money, and no power. What Marcus did not know was that the wife he humiliated had already approved the purchase of the company his father was desperately trying to save. Welcome to today's story. If you enjoy emotional drama and shocking twists, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more unforgettable stories. And before we begin, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Months before Marcus discovered who his wife truly was, Olivia Reed had already learned the value of staying invisible. For most people who knew Olivia Reed, she was easy to understand. She was quiet, polite, private. She lived in a comfortable but modest neighborhood outside Chicago, drove a reliable car, worked a simple consulting job, and never showed interest in designer clothes, luxury events, or expensive vacations. To the outside world, Olivia looked like a woman who valued a peaceful life over ambition. And that was exactly how she wanted it. At 34 years old, Olivia had built a life that looked ordinary on purpose. She had no interest in being recognized when she entered a room. She preferred listening over speaking. She avoided conversations about money because she had learned years ago that wealth could change how people treated you. She wanted something simple. She wanted people to see her before they saw what she owned. Especially Marcus. When Olivia first met Marcus Vance, he was not the powerful executive everyone admired today. He was a young businessman trying to prove himself inside his family's company, Vance Holdings. Back then, he appreciated the things other people ignored. He liked that Olivia never cared about expensive restaurants or exclusive events. He liked that she was calm when his career was uncertain. He liked that she believed in him before anyone else did. At least, that was who he had been. Over time, everything changed. Marcus became one of the rising executives at Vance Holdings. He started attending meetings with investors, networking with wealthy clients, and spending more time around people who measured success by reputation and status. The more successful he became, the more embarrassed he seemed by the life he had built with Olivia. Her simple clothes bothered him. Her quiet personality bothered him. Even the way she avoided attention started to feel like a weakness in his eyes. Marcus began making small comments at first. He would mention how other executives' wives attended charity events. He would point out how polished other women looked at company gatherings. He would casually ask why Olivia never wanted to grow or move forward. Olivia noticed the change, but she kept making excuses for him. She told herself Marcus was under pressure. She told herself success had changed his responsibilities, not his heart. She remembered the man he used to be, and she hoped he would come back. But Marcus no longer saw her as the woman who supported him when nobody else believed in him. He saw her as someone holding him back. The Vance family noticed too. Marcus's father, Richard Vance, had built the company over decades and expected his son to continue the legacy. But the company had recently entered a difficult period. Revenue had slowed. Investors had become nervous. Competitors had started taking advantage of their weaknesses. Marcus felt the pressure more than he admitted, and instead of facing the problem, he started looking for someone to blame. Olivia became the easiest target. She did not complain. She did not fight back. She did not remind him that she had supported him through years when nobody knew his name. So Marcus convinced himself she had nothing to offer. He never questioned why Olivia seemed unusually calm during financial conversations. He never wondered why she understood business decisions better than he expected. He never noticed that she sometimes received calls from people who spoke to her with unusual respect, because Marcus had already decided who Olivia was. And once someone believes they understand another person, they often stop looking deeper. One evening, while Marcus was preparing for another stressful week at Vance Holdings, Olivia sat quietly in their home office reviewing a private email. The sender was someone Marcus had never met. The message was brief. Ms. Sterling, the acquisition documents have passed final review. The transaction can proceed once we receive your approval. Olivia stared at the screen for a moment, not because she was uncertain, because she understood the weight of the decision. The company mentioned in the attached documents was one she had been studying carefully for months. A company with potential, a company with a damaged reputation, a company that needed new leadership. She knew the decision would affect many people, employees, executives, families. That was why she never treated business like a game. Before making any move, Olivia always asked the same question her legal team already knew. What happens to the people connected to this decision? Her phone rang moments later. She answered quietly. "Hello, Daniel." The voice on the other end belonged to one of her longtime financial advisors. "Miss Sterling, everything is ready. The board has reviewed the proposal. Once you approve the final documents, the acquisition process will begin." Olivia glanced toward the hallway. Marcus was walking through the house, distracted by his phone. He did not notice her conversation. He never did. "Send me the final version," Olivia said. Her voice remained calm, professional, controlled. The same voice she used whenever she made decisions that could affect thousands of lives. But inside, she felt something she could not ignore. A strange sadness. Because the company she was about to acquire was connected to the man she loved, she still did not know how personal that decision would become. Later that night, Marcus returned home after another long day. He barely looked at Olivia. "Tomorrow's dinner at my parents' house," he said. Olivia looked up from the kitchen counter. "Is there something special happening?" Marcus shrugged. "Just important people will be there." The way he said it made something inside her tighten. Important people, as if she was not one of them. Olivia smiled gently anyway. "Of course, I'll be there." Marcus walked away without noticing the disappointment in her eyes. He did not know the woman standing behind him was carrying a secret powerful enough to change his entire family's future. And he had no idea that tomorrow night, in front of everyone he wanted to impress, he would make the biggest mistake of his life. Because the woman he was preparing to humiliate was already holding the decision that could save or destroy everything he cared about. Olivia Reed had always believed that the hardest part of hiding a secret was not keeping other people from discovering it. It was living with the weight of knowing you could change everything, yet choosing not to. For years, Olivia had carried a truth that would have changed the way almost everyone treated her. She had access to resources most people spent their entire lives chasing. She had inherited control of a private investment group that managed companies across different industries. Her name carried influence in rooms she rarely entered. But inside the Vance household, she was simply Marcus' wife, and she preferred it that way. At least she had preferred it when Marcus still looked at her, with the same warmth he had shown before success changed him. Olivia never wanted a husband who loved her because of a bank account. She had seen enough people become different around Montana to understand how dangerous that could be. The moment someone discovered power, relationships often became transactions. She wanted something real. That was why she had kept her financial identity separate from her marriage. Her legal team had carefully structured everything through private entities and family trusts. Her personal name was protected. Her investments were managed quietly. Even the people working closest with her rarely discussed her private life. To the business world, she was Olivia Sterling. To Marcus, she was Olivia Reed. And for a long time, she believed those two lives could exist separately. But recently, the distance between them had become impossible to ignore. Marcus no longer asked about her day. He no longer noticed the small things she did. He no longer looked at her as his partner. Instead, he measured her against people he met through work. At company events, Olivia watched him become more comfortable around wealthy executives and ambitious professionals. He started caring more about appearances, connections, and how others viewed him. She noticed the way his tone changed whenever they talked about the future. "You don't understand how competitive this world is," Marcus had told her one evening after a company dinner. Olivia remembered sitting across from him, quietly listening. "I know more than you think," she had replied, but Marcus only smiled, not kindly, almost like he thought she was pretending. "You're sweet, Olivia, but business isn't something you can understand from the outside." The words stayed with her, not because they were insulting, because they showed how little he truly knew her. The woman he thought was standing outside his world had been watching that world from a position far more powerful than he could imagine. Still, little Olivia refused to use that truth as a weapon. She continued living simply. She continued making dinner. She continued supporting Marcus when he came home frustrated about problems at Vance Holdings. But slowly, she realized something painful. Marcus did not want support anymore. He wanted admiration, and he wanted it from people who made him feel important. That included Vanessa Cole. Vanessa was one of the newest biz consultants working with Vance Holdings. She was confident, polished, and exactly the type of person Marcus had started surrounding himself with. Olivia first noticed the change through small details. Marcus started checking his phone more often. He started protecting his messages. He started staying later at the office. Whenever Olivia asked if something was wrong, he became defensive. "You worry too much," he would say. Or, "You always assume the worst." Olivia wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe there was another explanation. But she also knew something about people with power. They often revealed themselves when they believed nobody was watching. One afternoon, while Marcus was away, Olivia sat in the quiet of their home office and reviewed documents from her investment team. The acquisition file was still open on her laptop. The company was struggling. Its leadership had made mistakes. Its value had dropped. But Olivia saw something others missed: potential. The right restructuring plan could save the company. Her advisors had recommended moving quickly. The final approval was waiting for her signature. A new email appeared. This time, it came from Daniel Brooks, the attorney who managed her family's business affairs. "Olivia, I wanted to confirm that the review process is complete. Once you approve the final agreement, the acquisition will proceed under the holding company. Your identity will remain confidential as planned." Olivia read the message carefully. She appreciated the protection. Not because she was afraid of people knowing she was wealthy. Because she knew exactly what happened when people discovered wealth before they discovered character. She closed the laptop and looked around the room, the small desk, the simple furniture. The homes Marcus often described as comfortable but temporary. He had no idea that a woman sitting beside him had made decisions involving companies worth far more than anything he had ever managed. But Olivia still hesitated, not because she doubted herself, because she wondered what would happen if Marcus ever knew. Would he finally see her, or would he only see what she owned? That question hurt more than she expected. Later that evening, Marcus arrived home, carrying the frustration of another difficult day. He dropped his keys on the counter and barely acknowledged Olivia. "The board meeting went badly," he said. Olivia looked up from the kitchen. "Is your father's company still struggling?" Marcus sighed. "Of course it is." There was anger in his voice. Not fear, anger, like the world had personally failed him. "We need someone with real resources," he continued. "Someone who understands how serious this is." Olivia stayed quiet. She knew exactly how serious it was. She knew the numbers. She knew the risks. She knew what could save the company. But she also knew Marcus would never accept advice from the woman he believed had nothing to offer. "You should get some rest," Olivia said softly. Marcus looked at her. For a moment, there was disappointment in his eyes, as if her response proved his point. "That's all you ever say," he replied. "Rest, be patient, stay comfortable." Olivia felt the words land harder than he realized, because she had spent years being patient, and now Marcus was mistaking patience for weakness. The next morning, Olivia received a message while Marcus was preparing for work. It was from Daniel. Short, professional, final. "The acquisition can move forward tomorrow. The board review is scheduled. Final approval requires your signature." Olivia stared at the screen. Tomorrow. The decision she had carefully considered for months was finally here, and she still had no idea that the company she was about to acquire was the same company Marcus believed he would one day control. She placed the phone face down. Then she looked toward the hallway where Marcus was getting ready. He was still unaware, still confident, still convinced he understood exactly who his wife was, and Olivia knew that the next decision she made would not only affect a company, It would determine what remained of her marriage. Olivia Reed had spent years believing that patience could save almost anything. A difficult season, a stressful career, a marriage that had lost its warmth. But after the last few months, she had started to understand something she never wanted to admit. Patience only worked if both people were trying. Marcus Vance was no longer trying. The morning after receiving the final acquisition message from Daniel Brooks, Olivia watched Marcus prepare for work, as if nothing had changed. He stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his tie, checking his phone, and reviewing messages from Vance Holdings. He looked confident, focused, like a man who believed he was still in control of his future. Olivia noticed the small details she used to ignore. The way he smiled at his phone, the way he turned the screen away when she entered the room, the way his entire expression changed whenever a certain name appeared. Vanessa Cole. For months, Olivia had tried to convince herself that Vanessa was only a colleague, a professional relationship, someone Marcus worked with because of the company's difficult situation, but her instincts kept telling her otherwise. And recently, the evidence had started appearing, not through dramatic discoveries, not through one impossible moment, through small cracks, a forgotten receipt from an expensive restaurant, a message preview that disappeared too quickly, a sudden change in Marcus's schedule. The distance between them had not appeared overnight. It had been building quietly, and Marcus had been too focused on his own ambitions to notice. That afternoon, Olivia sat in her home office reviewing documents from her legal team. She was not searching for a reason to hurt Marcus. She was trying to understand the reality of her marriage. Daniel had sent her a summary of several communications involving Vance Holdings leadership. One section caught her attention, a series of unusual expense reports connected to Marcus, private dinners, personal purchases, payments that appeared unrelated to business development. Olivia stared at the information for a long moment. She felt the familiar ache in her chest, not anger. Disappointment. The hardest part was not discovering that Marcus might have betrayed her. The hardest part was realizing how long she had been protecting an image of him that no longer existed. She saved the documents securely. She did not confront him. Not yet. Olivia had learned that emotional decisions often gave other people control over the outcome. She wanted facts, not assumptions, not accusations, facts. That evening, Marcus came home later than usual. He placed his jacket over a chair and barely acknowledged Olivia. "You're late," she said gently. Marcus looked annoyed. "I had meetings." Olivia nodded. "With Vanessa?" The question changed the atmosphere instantly. Marcus stopped, only for a second. But Olivia noticed. His reaction told her more than his answer. "Why are you asking me that?" he said. His voice was defensive, too defensive. "Because things have felt different lately," Olivia replied. Marcus laughed quietly, not because something was funny, because he wanted to dismiss the conversation. "You always do this." "Do what?" "Create problems because you don't understand my life." The words were sharper than he probably intended, but he did not apologize. Olivia looked at him carefully. Years ago, she would have tried harder to explain herself. She would have reassured him. She would have asked what she could do differently. This time she stayed quiet, and that silence made Marcus uncomfortable. "You know what your problem is, Olivia," he continued. "You're comfortable staying exactly where you are." She felt the sting, but she did not look away. "I thought you loved that about me." Marcus sighed. "That was before I realized how much ambition matters." There it was. The belief he had been hiding. He did not think Olivia was loyal. He thought she was limited. "You think I'm holding you back," she said. Marcus did not answer. He did not need to. The silence was enough. The next day, Olivia received a call from Daniel. She stepped outside before answering. "Good morning." "Olivia, good morning." His tone was professional, but careful. He knew enough about her personal situation to understand why timing mattered. "I wanted to confirm something before moving forward. The acquisition review is complete. However, there is one concern." Olivia listened. "The current leadership team has been under pressure. If the transaction closes, there may be resistance from executives who believe they can maintain control." Olivia looked through the window of her home. Marcus's car was parked outside. He doesn't know, she said quietly. Daniel paused. Your husband? Yes. A moment of silence followed. Then Daniel spoke carefully. Are you certain you want to proceed without informing him? Olivia closed her eyes. That was the question she had been avoiding. For years, she had protected Marcus from the truth because she wanted their relationship to be genuine. But now she had to ask herself another question. Was hiding her identity protecting the marriage? Or was it allowing Marcus to continue disrespecting her? I need to know something first, Olivia said. What? If he knew everything about me tomorrow, would he regret hurting me because he finally understood my value? Daniel did not answer immediately because they both knew the truth. A person who only respects power does not truly respect the person. Olivia ended the call and returned inside. That evening, Marcus received an invitation to dinner from his father. The message was short. Important family discussion. Bring your schedule. Marcus smiled when he read it. He thought it was about the company, a chance to discuss his future, a chance to prove himself. He had no idea his father's dinner would become the moment where his arrogance finally became visible to everyone. Meanwhile, Olivia received a separate message. Not from Marcus, not from his family, from Daniel. The acquisition time has been moved forward. The final review is tomorrow. Olivia looked at the message. Tomorrow. The same day Marcus planned to introduce her to the people he wanted to impress, she placed the phone down. For the first time in a long time, Olivia did not feel afraid of losing Marcus. She felt afraid of realizing she had already lost him. The next evening, she would walk into the Vance family dinner knowing exactly what she was. But Marcus would walk in believing he knew exactly what she was not, and that difference would change everything. Olivia Reed knew something had changed the moment she walked into the Vance family home. It was not the expensive decorations. It was not the long dining table prepared for an important family gathering. It was the way everyone looked at her. Not with anger. Not even with dislike. With judgment. She had seen that look many times before. The look people gave when they thought they already understood someone. To them, Olivia was Marcus Vance's quiet wife, the woman who stayed in the background, the woman without a powerful career, the woman who did not belong in their world. Marcus stood near the entrance greeting guests with confidence. He wore a tailored suit, smiled easily, and looked like a man who wanted everyone in the room to see how far he had climbed. Olivia watched him for a moment. She remembered when he used to be nervous before events like this, when he used to ask if she thought he was making the right decisions. Now he barely looked at her. A woman standing beside him caught Olivia's attention. Vanessa Cole. She was dressed perfectly, speaking comfortably with Marcus's parents as if she had done it many times before. The moment Olivia saw her, she understood. This was not just about work. This was personal. But Olivia did not create a scene. She did not walk away. She did not give Marcus the reaction he expected. She simply removed her coat, placed it neatly aside, and took her seat. That was one thing Marcus had always misunderstood about her. He believed silence meant weakness. He never understood that Olivia's silence came from control. Dinner started politely. Conversation moved between company issues, investors, and Marcus's recent achievements. Everyone seemed interested in him. His father praised his leadership. His mother talked about his future. Vanessa occasionally added comments that made Marcus laugh. Olivia noticed everything, the small gestures, the comfortable familiarity, the way Vanessa seemed certain she belonged there, and the way Marcus allowed it. For months, Olivia had tried to protect their marriage from problems that Marcus refused to acknowledge. Tonight she stopped protecting him. Not because she wanted revenge, because she finally accepted the truth. The man sitting across from her was no longer the person she had married. Marcus poured himself another drink and leaned back. So, Olivia, his mother said, forcing a polite smile, "Are you still doing that small consulting work?" The question sounded harmless, but everyone at the table knew what she meant. Small, unimportant. Olivia placed her glass down calmly. "Yes, I enjoy it." Marcus gave a quiet laugh. Not a kind one. Enjoying something is easy when you don't have real pressure. The table became slightly quieter. Olivia looked at him. "Marcus." He ignored the warning in her voice. "What?" His expression showed confidence. like he believed everyone agreed with him. You know it's true. Some people are comfortable staying average. Vanessa looked down at her plate, pretending not to listen. But Olivia saw the satisfaction in her expression. Marcus continued, I spend every day trying to protect my family's company. I deal with investors, executives, and problems most people would never understand. He looked directly at Olivia. And then I come home to someone who has no idea what that world is like. The words were painful. Not because Marcus criticized her, because he genuinely believed them. Olivia had spent years hiding her financial identity because she wanted him to love the person behind it. But now she realized Marcus did not even respect the person. His mother placed her fork down. You know, Marcus has always needed someone beside him who understands his ambitions. It was a simple sentence, but Olivia understood exactly what it meant. Someone else, someone like Vanessa. Marcus did not correct her. That hurt more than anything. Olivia sat quietly. She could have ended everything in that moment. She could have told them the truth. She could have explained that the company Marcus was struggling to save was connected to a decision waiting for her approval. But she did not, because revealing the truth would not change what had already happened. It would only prove something she never wanted to believe. That Marcus might only value her once he knew what she could give him. The conversation became more uncomfortable as Marcus drank more. His frustration from work mixed with his desire to impress the people around him. Finally, he pushed his plate away. I honestly don't know why we keep pretending everything is fine. Olivia looked at him. What are you talking about? Marcus smiled slightly, a cold smile. I think we both know we're different people now. The room became silent. Vanessa watched carefully. Marcus continued. I need someone who can stand beside me in my world. Olivia felt something inside her become very still, not broken, clear. She looked around the table. His parents, Vanessa. The people who had watched him slowly distance himself from her. Nobody defended her. Nobody asked Marcus if he was being fair. That silence answered every question she had been avoiding. Marcus reached into his jacket and placed a folder beside his plate. The movement was calm, prepared. Olivia stared at it. She already knew what it was. Divorce papers. I think this is the best decision for both of us, Marcus said. The words felt strangely quiet. After everything, she expected anger. A fight. Something dramatic. Instead, she only felt tired. Marcus mistook her silence for surrender. You'll be okay, he added. You've always wanted a simple life. Olivia looked at the folder, then at him. For the first time that night, Marcus seemed uncertain because she was not crying. She was not begging, she was not asking him to reconsider. She simply reached for the papers. I understand, she said. That answer unsettled him. He expected pain. He expected resistance. He never expected acceptance. Olivia signed what she needed to sign and placed the papers back on the table. Her hands did not shake, because while Marcus believed he was taking away her future, he had no idea that she had already protected it. As she stood to leave, her phone vibrated inside her bag. She stepped outside into the cold evening air before checking it. A message from Daniel Brooks waited. Olivia, the board has confirmed tomorrow's emergency meeting. The acquisition of Vance Holdings will proceed after your final approval. She stared at the screen. Tomorrow. The same company Marcus believed he was fighting to save. The same company he thought belonged to his family. And tomorrow he would finally meet the person standing behind the deal. Olivia locked her phone. Then she looked back at the house where everyone had decided she was powerless. For years she had allowed them to believe that. Tomorrow she would stop. The morning after the divorce papers were placed on the table, Marcus Vance woke up believing he had finally made the difficult decision he had been avoiding. He thought he had removed the problem. He thought he had chosen his future. For Marcus, Olivia leaving was not a loss. It was a necessary step. At least, that was what he told himself. The reality was much harder to accept. The company he depended on was still struggling. His father's reputation was weakening. Investors were losing confidence. And the one person who had quietly stood beside him for years was no longer there to absorb the pressure. But Marcus refused to see it that way. Instead, he walked into Vance Holdings with the confidence of someone who believed everything could still be fixed. He entered the executive floor wearing an expensive suit, carrying a coffee, and greeting employees who looked increasingly nervous. The atmosphere was different. People were whispering. Meetings had been moved. Executives were waiting for updates. Marcus noticed. But he assumed it was because of the company's financial problems, not because something much bigger was already happening behind the scenes. In his office, Richard Vance sat staring at a stack of financial reports. His father looked older than he had a few months earlier. The pressure of saving the family company had taken away the confidence that once defined him. "We need another option," Richard said. Marcus closed the office door. "We will find one." Richard looked up. "Your last investor walked away. That doesn't mean everyone will." Richard pushed a document across the desk. "The banks are asking questions. The board is losing patience. We need someone with serious capital." Marcus looked at the numbers. The situation was worse than he wanted to admit, but instead of fear, he felt frustration. He hated feeling powerless, especially now, especially after Olivia had left. "She never understood this pressure," Marcus said suddenly. Richard looked confused. "Who?" "Olivia." His father leaned back. "This is about your marriage?" Marcus looked away. "She always thought everything could be solved by being patient. She never understood what it takes to protect something important." Richard said nothing, because even he could see the irony. Olivia had always been calm during the company's difficult moments. She had asked thoughtful questions. She had listened. But Marcus had mistaken her quietness for ignorance. Meanwhile, Olivia was sitting in a private meeting room across town. The room was simple, professional. Nothing about it showed the scale of the decisions being made inside. Daniel Brooks sat across from her with several documents. "The acquisition team has completed the final review," he said. Olivia looked through the papers carefully. The company was officially identified only through legal structures and holding entities. No public connection to her. No indication that Olivia Reed was behind the transaction. Daniel watched her closely. "Once this closes, the board will need to meet with the new ownership representative." Olivia nodded. "I'll attend." Daniel paused. "Are you sure?" Olivia looked up. "Yes." For years she had allowed people to misunderstand her. She had accepted being underestimated because she believed it protected what mattered. But Marcus had crossed a line, not because he hurt her feelings, because he had built an entire version of her that erased her value. She was done trying to prove she deserved respect. She was ready to make decisions based on reality. Back at Vance Holdings, Marcus received a message from his father. "Emergency board meeting tomorrow morning. Attendance required." Marcus immediately assumed it was about the company's rescue plan. Maybe a new investor, maybe a partnership, maybe the opportunity he needed to regain control. He walked into his father's office with renewed confidence. "The meeting is confirmed?" Richard nodded. "Yes." "Who is the investor?" Richard hesitated. "That information has been kept confidential." Marcus frowned. "Confidential?" "The buyer requested privacy during negotiations." Marcus laughed. "That's unusual." Richard looked toward the window. "They have the resources to acquire the company. That's what matters." Marcus felt a strange sense of relief. A powerful investor was coming. Someone who could save Vance Holdings. Someone who understood the world he belonged to. The irony never reached him. The person with the power to save his family's company was the same person he had dismissed as having no ambition. That evening, Marcus met Vanessa at a restaurant. He was more relaxed than he had been in weeks. The future looked better. The divorce was moving forward. The company might survive, and Vanessa was sitting across from him, smiling like she already knew where she belonged. "You seem happier," she said. Marcus smiled. "I finally made a decision." Vanessa reached across the table. "You did the right thing." Marcus nodded. He believed her, because believing her was easier than admitting he had destroyed something valuable. "She was never really suited for my life," Marcus said. Vanessa tilted her head. "Olivia?" Marcus nodded. "She's a good person. But good isn't enough." He did not notice the sadness hidden behind Vanessa's smile. He did not notice that her interest had always been connected to his position, not his character. The next morning, Olivia arrived at the Vance Holdings building. For years, she had entered places like this without anyone knowing who she was. Employees saw a quiet woman, Executives saw a visitor. Nobody understood the authority behind her name. But today was different. She walked through the lobby, carrying only a small folder. No display of wealth. No attempt to impress anyone. Just confidence. At the executive floor, board members were already gathering. Richard sat at the end of the table. Marcus stood nearby, waiting for the mysterious investor's representative. He checked his watch. Then the conference room doors opened. Everyone turned. Marcus expected a stranger, a financial executive, a representative from a major investment group. Instead, he saw Olivia Reed standing there. For a moment, nobody spoke. Marcus stared at his wife, the woman he had called ordinary, the woman he believed had no place in his future. And Olivia calmly walked toward the table, placed the folder down, and looked at the people who had never known who she truly was. "Good morning," she said. "I believe we should begin with the ownership transition." Marcus Vance stared at Olivia Reed standing at the entrance of the boardroom, to understand why his wife was there. For several seconds, nobody moved. The executives around the table looked between them, confused. Richard Vance slowly stood from his chair. Olivia, his voice carried uncertainty. Not recognition, confusion. Marcus almost laughed because the situation seemed impossible. "What are you doing here?" Olivia walked calmly toward the table. She did not look embarrassed, she did not look nervous, and that bothered Marcus more than anything. He expected her to be uncomfortable in a room filled with executives. He expected her to feel out of place. Instead, she moved like someone who had spent years making decisions in rooms exactly like this. She placed a folder on the table. "Good morning," Olivia said. "I believe we should begin with the ownership transition." The room became silent again. Marcus looked at his father, then at the other board members. Nobody laughed. Nobody questioned why she was speaking. That was the first moment Marcus felt something was wrong. "Olivia," he said slowly, forcing a smile, "this is a board meeting. I'm aware. And this meeting is about the new investor." "Yes." Marcus waited for her to explain. She didn't. That made him uncomfortable. He was used to Olivia explaining herself. He was used to her trying to make people understand her. Today, she simply stood there. Richard looked at the folder. "What is this?" Olivia opened it and turned it toward the board. The final acquisition documents for Vance Holdings. A few executives leaned forward. One of them picked up the first page. His expression changed immediately. "Sterling Capital?" The name traveled through the room. Marcus recognized it. Everyone in business recognized it. Sterling Capital was a private investment group known for acquiring struggling companies and rebuilding them through long-term strategies. But nobody knew who controlled it. The ownership structure had always been private. Marcus looked at Olivia, then back at the documents. No, his voice was quiet at first, almost like he was refusing to believe his own thoughts. "No, that's not possible." Olivia remained calm. "Why isn't it possible?" Marcus stared at her. Because the woman standing in front of him was the same person he had described as ordinary. The same woman he had told people did not understand ambition. The same woman he had left behind while chasing a different future. "You don't have anything to do with this," he said. The words came out quickly, almost automatically. Olivia looked at him, not with anger, with disappointment. "I do." Richard grabbed the documents and started reading faster. His hands became unsteady. "The buyer," he looked up. "Your company is the buyer?" Olivia nodded. Through Sterling Capital, the room erupted with quiet conversations. Board members exchanged looks. Executives who had spent weeks searching for a solution were now realizing the answer had been closer than anyone imagined. Marcus felt the room shifting around him, but he still refused to accept it. "You're lying." The accusation was immediate, emotional, desperate. Olivia did not react. "Marcus, no." He stepped forward. "You expect me to believe that my wife, who never cared about business, secretly bought my father's company?" His voice grew louder. "You?" The question was not about the company anymore. It was about how little he believed she was capable of, and everyone in the room heard it. One of the board members cleared his throat. "Mr. Vance, the documents have been verified by outside counsel." Marcus stopped. The room became colder, because the person who confirmed Olivia's authority was not Olivia. It was the legal system. The signatures, the records, the transaction, everything was real. Olivia placed another document on the table. The ownership transfer has been completed. The bank has already been notified. Richard slowly sat down. His entire understanding of the situation had changed. For weeks, he had searched for someone wealthy enough to save his family's company. He had never imagined the answer was the quiet woman his son constantly underestimated. "Why?" Richard asked softly. Olivia looked at him. "Why did you buy the company?" She took a moment before answering. "Because it had value." Richard lowered his eyes, not because Olivia was ashamed of losing control, because he realized Olivia had seen potential where they had only seen failure. Marcus watched her, trying to find the version of Olivia he thought he knew, the quiet wife, the woman who avoided attention, the person who supposedly had no ambition. But she was gone. Or maybe she had never existed. "What else don't I know about you?" he whispered. Olivia looked at him. "That depends on what you were willing to see." The sentence hit harder than anger. Because it was true. Marcus had never asked. He had assumed. He had decided who she was before understanding her. The board continued reviewing the documents. Olivia explained the transition plan. She discussed restructuring, leadership changes, financial priorities. Her knowledge of the company was undeniable. She knew the problems. She knew the risks. She knew exactly where the company had failed. Marcus sat frozen. The woman he had called unambitious was now explaining the future of the company he wanted to lead. Then Olivia reached into her folder again. This time, she placed a smaller envelope in front of Marcus. He looked at it. "What is this?" Olivia's expression remained calm. "Something you should have known before asking me for a divorce." Marcus slowly opened the envelope. Inside were documents, records, messages, financial reports. His face changed as he began reading, because these were not about the company, they were about him, and Olivia had not only discovered who he was, she had documented it. The boardroom became silent. Marcus looked up at his wife. For the first time, he was not looking at someone he underestimated. He was looking at someone he had never truly known, and he realized the company reveal was only the beginning. Marcus Vance barely heard the voices around him. The boardroom that had once felt like his future now felt unfamiliar. Every document on the table represented something he could not control. Every person watching him saw something he was not ready to admit. He had spent years believing Olivia Reed was the person standing behind him, supporting him, following him. But now she was standing at the center of the room while everyone else waited for her decisions. The balance of power had changed, and Marcus was the last person to understand it. Olivia sat at the head of the table after the ownership transition was confirmed. She did not look satisfied. She did not look like someone celebrating a victory. She looked like someone carrying responsibility. That was what confused Marcus the most. He expected arrogance. He expected revenge. He expected her to enjoy watching him lose. Instead, she was focused on the company. "Before any leadership decisions are made, I want a complete operational review," Olivia said calmly. "The goal is stability, not punishment." The board members listened carefully. Marcus noticed something that bothered him. They respected her, not because of her money, because of her judgment. One of the senior executives opened a report. "The company has serious issues with cash flow, delayed projects, and internal management problems." Olivia nodded. "I know." Marcus looked up. "You know?" The room became quiet. Olivia turned toward him. "I reviewed the reports before the acquisition." Marcus almost laughed. "You reviewed them?" His disbelief was obvious. "You were making decisions about this company before anyone here even knew who you were?" Olivia held his gaze. "Yes." That answer unsettled him more than anything else. Because it meant she had been aware of the problems he struggled with. She had understood them. And she had never used that knowledge to embarrass him. She could have told him. She could have stepped in. But she had chosen not to. Not because she was powerless. Because she was trying to respect the boundaries of their relationship. Marcus finally understood something painful. Olivia's silence had never meant she knew nothing. It meant she had been choosing restraint. Richard Vance looked exhausted. "Olivia, I need to ask something." She looked at him. "Why didn't you tell us?" The question hung in the room. Marcus waited for the answer. Part of him still wanted to believe there was some explanation that would make everything easier. Olivia took a slow breath. Because I wanted to be treated like a person, not an opportunity. Nobody spoke. Her words were quiet, but they carried more weight than anger. She continued. I have spent my life watching people change when they discover money or influence. I didn't want my marriage to be based on what I owned. Marcus lowered his eyes, because he knew exactly what she meant. He had spent months treating her differently. Not because he knew the truth, because he had decided she had no value. The irony was impossible to ignore. The woman he wanted to replace because she was not enough was the person who now controlled the future of his family Callie's company. But Olivia was not finished. She opened the second folder she had brought into the meeting. This time, the atmosphere changed. This review also identified several issues involving executive conduct. Marcus looked up, his stomach tightened. Olivia slid several documents across the table. These records involve company resources being used for personal expenses. Richard picked up the papers. His expression changed as he read. Marcus immediately knew. He knew what was inside. The restaurant payments, the hotel charges, the expenses connected to Vanessa. His face became pale. Olivia, her eyes moved toward him. Not cold, not emotional, just calm. I did not order this review because of our marriage. She paused. I ordered it because I became responsible for protecting this company. That sentence mattered. She was not destroying him because he hurt her. She was holding him accountable because he had failed his responsibilities. That difference was something Marcus could not argue against. A board member looked through the documents. Are these verified? Olivia nodded. Every item has been reviewed by independent auditors. The room became heavier. Marcus looked around. For the first time, he felt alone. Vanessa was not there. His father was not defending him. The executives who once admired him were now seeing a different side of him. The confident leader, the ambitious businessman, the man who wanted more, but also the man who had made careless decisions while believing consequences belonged to other people. After the meeting ended, Marcus followed Olivia into the hallway. Wait. She stopped, but she did not turn around immediately. Olivia, you could have told me. Her expression remained calm. Told you what? That you were this person. She looked at him. The question hurt because of what it revealed. Marcus still focused on her wealth, not her pain. You mean the person who owns companies? He said nothing. Olivia shook her head slightly. That is what you see now. Marcus looked confused. What does that mean? It means you only started looking at me after you discovered what I had. The words landed harder than any accusation. Marcus wanted to defend himself. He wanted to say he was sorry. But the truth was uncomfortable. He did not know how to apologize to someone he had spent years refusing to understand. Later that afternoon, Vanessa arrived at the office. She walked quickly toward Marcus's old office, expecting to find him. Instead, she found him sitting alone. The confidence was gone. The certainty was gone. What happened? She asked. Marcus looked at her. For the first time, he noticed something he had ignored. Vanessa was not asking if he was okay. She was asking what happened to his position. Before he could answer, her phone buzzed. She looked at the message. Then her expression changed. Marcus noticed. What is it? Vanessa forced a smile. Nothing. But it was not nothing. She had just received an update. Marcus was no longer the powerful executive that she thought he would become, and now she had had to decide whether she wanted the man or the status. Marcus watched her carefully, and for the first time, he wondered if the person he betrayed Olivia for had ever truly cared about him. Then another message appeared on his phone. From Olivia's legal team, the subject line was simple. Next steps regarding divorce proceedings and asset review. Marcus opened it, and his face changed, because the company reveal had been only the beginning. Now he was about to face the consequences of losing the woman he never bothered to know. Marcus spent the next several days trying to understand how everything had changed so quickly. A week earlier, he had walked into rooms believing he was the most important person there. He had believed his career, his reputation, and his future were built on his own ability. Now he was sitting across from lawyers, discussing separation agreements while the company had spent years trying to impress answered to someone else. Olivia, the name still felt strange in his mind, not because he did not know her, because he realized he had never truly known her. The woman who quietly made coffee every morning, who listened when he complained about work, and who never demanded attention had been the same woman sitting at the center of a billion-dollar acquisition. But the hardest part was not discovering her wealth. It was remembering how he had treated her when he believed she had none. Marcus had spent years measuring people by what they could offer him, and when he looked at Olivia, he had decided she offered nothing. That thought followed him everywhere. Meanwhile, Olivia had continued working. She did not allow the divorce to become the center of her life. There were meetings, financial reviews, and difficult decisions waiting for her at Sterling Capital. Owning Vance Holdings did not mean everything suddenly became easy. The company had real problems. Employees were worried, executives were uncertain, investors wanted reassurance. Olivia understood that power came with responsibility. She did not want to prove a point to Marcus. She wanted to protect the people who depended on the company. That was the difference between her and him. Marcus had chased status. Olivia carried responsibility. One afternoon, Marcus asked to meet her privately. She agreed, but only in a public office conference room. The choice was deliberate, not because she feared him. Because she had finally learned to protect her boundaries. Marcus noticed. "You do not trust me anymore." Olivia looked at him quietly. "I trusted you for years." The answer hurt more than anger would have. Marcus looked down. "I was wrong." Olivia did not respond immediately. He continued. "I thought you were holding me back." Her expression changed slightly. "And now?" Marcus struggled to answer. "Because the truth was difficult. Now I know you were the only person who actually believed in me." Olivia looked away for a moment. There was sadness in her eyes, but not weakness. "I believed in the person I married, Marcus." She paused. "But that person disappeared when you started believing your value came from your position." Marcus swallowed. He wanted to tell her he could change. He wanted to promise that he finally understood. But he also knew promises were the reason they had reached this point. He had made many of them before. "I never wanted your money," he said. Olivia looked back at him. The sentence sounded different now, almost like an excuse. "The problem was never that you wanted my money." Her voice remained calm. "The problem was that you treated me as if I had no value when you thought I had nothing." Marcus had no answer, because she was right. He had not lost Olivia because she became powerful. He lost her because he failed to respect her before he knew she was powerful. The divorce process moved forward. Their attorneys reviewed financial records and property agreements carefully. There were no dramatic courtroom battles or public fights. Olivia did not want revenge. She wanted closure. Marcus had expected her to fight for everything. Instead, she only asked for what was legally hers. That confused him more than anger would have. He realized she was trying to destroy him. She was simply done sacrificing herself. Outside of the company, Marcus's life became quieter. Vanessa stopped answering his calls as often. The confidence she once showed disappeared after she realized Marcus no longer represented the future she imagined. She had been attracted to his ambition, his influence, his promise of a higher social circle. But without those things, their connection became much weaker. Marcus finally saw the pattern. He had left someone who loved him for someone who admired his image, and now he understood the difference. One evening, he visited the old house they once shared. The place looked different, not because anything had changed, because Olivia's presence was gone. There were no books left on the table, no quiet music in the background, no reminders of the person who had made the house feel like home. Marcus stood in the empty living room and remembered the night he told her she was worthless. The words came back exactly as he had said them. He remembered the look on her face. Not anger, not sadness. Disappointment. That was the moment he finally understood the damage he had done. He had not simply insulted his wife. He had shown her that his love depended on his perception of her value, and no amount of money could repair that. The next morning, Marcus received an unexpected message. It was not from Olivia. It was from the board. The message confirmed that Olivia would be making a major leadership announcement regarding Vance Holdings. Marcus assumed he was being removed completely. Part of him believed he deserved it. But another part of him wondered why Olivia had not already destroyed his career. When he arrived at the company headquarters, he saw employees gathering for the announcement. Everyone was waiting. The doors opened. Olivia walked into the room. Not as Marcus Vance's wife, not as the quiet woman nobody noticed. She walked in as the person who now controlled the future of the entire company. Marcus watched her take her place. Then he saw something he did not expect. A document placed beside her, a decision that involved him. And for the first time, Marcus realized Olivia was not deciding whether to punish him. She was deciding whether he had earned the chance to rebuild what he had lost. The announcement at Vance Holdings did not happen the way Marcus expected. He had imagined Olivia standing in front of the executives and using her new position to make an example out of him. He expected anger. He expected humiliation. He expected her to remind everyone in that room how badly he had treated her. Instead, Olivia did something he never expected. She focused on the company. She spoke about stability, rebuilding trust, and protecting the people who had worked there for years. She talked about improving leadership, strengthening financial controls, and creating a culture where decisions were based on responsibility rather than ego. Not once did she mention their marriage. Not once did she mention the dinner where he called her worthless. Not once did she use her power to hurt him. Marcus stood near the back of the room, listening, and somehow that made the guilt heavier. Because Olivia was showing everyone the kind of leader she had always been, he was the one who failed to see it. After the meeting ended, several executives approached Olivia. Some had worked with the Vance family for decades. They had expected a distant investor who cared only about numbers. Instead, they found someone who asked questions about employees, operations, and long-term stability. She was not trying to erase the company. She was trying to save it. Marcus watched from a distance. For years, he had believed success meant becoming more powerful than everyone around him. Olivia had power. But she carried it differently. That realization stayed with him. Over the next few weeks, Olivia began restructuring Vance Holdings. The process was difficult. Several financial decisions made before the acquisition required review. Some executives who had protected personal interests instead of company interests were removed. Marcus expected his own position to disappear. He had prepared himself for it. But Olivia surprised him again. She did not remove him immediately. Instead, she asked for a formal performance review. Not a personal conversation, not a revenge decision, a business decision. Marcus entered the meeting expecting coldness. Olivia sat across from him with documents in front of her. "Your results are not the only issue," she said. Marcus looked down. He already knew the company needs leaders people can trust. Her words were calm. That includes financial decisions, professional conduct, and how people are treated. Marcus understood what she meant. I was not talking only about business. She was talking about everything he had become. I was arrogant, he admitted. Olivia remained silent. I thought being successful gave me the right to judge people. For the first time, Marcus was not trying to defend himself. He was simply accepting the truth. Olivia closed the file. I hope you learn from this. The sentence surprised him, not because it was harsh, because it was kind. And kindness from Olivia hurt more than anger. He realized she was no longer fighting for him to understand her. She had already moved past that. Outside the company, Marcus's relationship with Vanessa collapsed completely. When his position became uncertain, the attention she once gave him disappeared. The expensive dinners, the constant messages, and the excitement of their secret relationship faded quickly. Marcus finally saw what Olivia had seen. Vanessa had loved the version of him that looked successful. She had never known the man underneath. The same mistake he had made with Olivia. Except Olivia had stayed when she believed he had nothing. Vanessa had stayed when she thought he could give her something. That difference followed him. One evening, Marcus received a message from Olivia's attorney, confirming the final stages of their divorce agreement. The document was professional, clean, respectful. There were no unnecessary demands, no attempt to embarrass him. She had taken what was legally hers and walked away. Marcus stared at the agreement for a long time. The woman he had called a burden had been the most reasonable person in the entire process. He signed. Not because he wanted to lose her, Because he finally understood he had no right to hold on to someone he had spent years making feel unwanted. Months passed. Vance Holdings slowly stabilized. Employees who had once feared the acquisition began respecting Olivia's leadership. She visited different departments, listened to concerns, and made decisions based on facts instead of appearances. People started telling stories about the new owner. They talked about how she remembered names, how she treated assistants and executives with the same respect, how she never needed to announce her power because everyone could see it through her actions. Marcus heard those stories, and every one of them reminded him of the woman he had ignored. One afternoon, and he found Olivia alone in the company lobby. For a moment, he considered walking away. But he stopped. "Olivia," she turned. There was no anger in her expression anymore. Only distance. "I wanted to thank you." She looked surprised. "For what? For not destroying me?" Olivia studied him. "That was never my goal." Marcus nodded slowly. "I know that now." The silence between them was different. Not the painful silence from their marriage. A final kind of silence. The kind that came when two people accepted that something had ended. "I wish I had seen you earlier," Marcus said. Olivia looked at him. "You saw me." Her voice was gentle. "You just decided I was not important." Marcus felt the weight of those words, because they were true. Olivia walked away before he could respond. She did not leave because she was trying to punish him. She left because she had finally chosen herself. Later that evening, Olivia returned to her office and reviewed the final plans for the company's future. Her assistant placed a new document on her desk. It was not about Marcus. It was not about the divorce. It was a proposal involving the next stage of Sterling Capital's expansion. Olivia opened it carefully. Then her phone rang. It was her attorney. His voice sounded serious. "Olivia, there is something you need to know before tomorrow's board meeting." She looked at the documents in front of her. "What happened?" A brief silence followed. Then he said, "We found evidence that the problems at Vance Holdings started much earlier than anyone realized. And the person responsible may be someone Marcus trusted the most." The board meeting the next morning gave Olivia the final piece of the truth she needed. The investigation confirmed that the financial problems inside Vance Holdings had not been caused by one mistake. Several executives had hidden poor decisions for years, and Marcus had ignored warning signs because he was too focused on proving himself. The person who suffered the most from the collapse was not Olivia. It was everyone who had trusted the company. Olivia handled the situation the same way she had handled everything else. Calmly, carefully, without turning pain into revenge. She removed the people who had broken that trust, including those who had used Marcus's ambition to protect their own interests. Marcus kept his position temporarily while the transition was completed, but his role changed. He was no longer the man chasing power. He was someone learning what responsibility actually meant. For the first time in years, Marcus stopped blaming circumstances. He stopped blaming Olivia. He finally understood that the biggest mistake of his life was not losing a powerful wife. It was failing to value her when he believed she had no power at all. Months later, Olivia stood in the new headquarters of Sterling Capital and looked out over the city. Her name was no longer hidden behind legal documents or private agreements. People knew who she was. They knew she was the billionaire heiress behind one of the largest private investment groups in the country. They knew she had acquired Vance Holdings. They knew she had the authority to change everything. But Olivia was still the same person. She still arrived early. She still listened more than she spoke. She still treated people with respect, regardless of their position. The difference was that she no longer hid herself to make others comfortable. For years, she had believed staying quiet protected the simple life she wanted. Now, she understood that there was a difference between humility and allowing someone to make her feel invisible. Marcus eventually met with her one final time. There was no anger between them anymore. Only honesty. "I spent so much time trying to become someone important," Marcus said. "I never realized I was standing next to someone who already was." Olivia looked at him. That was never the part that mattered. Marcus nodded because he finally understood. Her wealth had never been the reason she deserved respect. Her kindness had, her loyalty had. The way she treated people he had spent years looking for value in titles, money, and appearances. Olivia had spent those same years proving that character mattered more than any of those things. "I am sorry," Marcus said. This time, Olivia believed he meant it. But forgiveness did not mean returning to the past. "I hope you become a better person," she told him. "But I cannot be the person who teaches you that lesson anymore." Marcus accepted the answer. It hurt. But it was fair. Their marriage ended as it should have ended. Not with hatred. Not with revenge. With two people accepting that love could disappear when respect was gone. Olivia continued building her company and her life. She created opportunities for others, supported responsible leadership, and carried her family legacy with a purpose beyond money. The secret billionaire wife everyone had underestimated was no longer a secret. But the greatest reveal was never her fortune. It was the truth that she had always known her own worth, even when the person closest to her refused to see it. Marcus had lost a marriage because he judged a person by what he thought she owned. Olivia gained something far more important: peace. She had lost someone who could not appreciate her, but she found herself again. And sometimes, the most powerful comeback is not making someone regret losing you. It is reaching a place where you no longer need their regret at all. If Olivia's story made you think about how easily people can misunderstand someone's true value, share your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe money can hide who a person really is? Or does character always reveal the truth in the end?